Shah, Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahweh Shah.
Officially collapsed under a steaming pile of stupidity, you'll be able to tell your kids about the worst president in American history intentionally leading his country off of a cliff. Now, we have a couple of big news stories to get to that just unfolded over the past 24 hours. But first, just when you thought 2024 would be a year of peace and joy, these moron globalists are pushing us to the brink of World War III. Right now, traveling through Germany, where I'm watching thousands of farmers descending on Berlin, telling their globalist leaders, enough is enough, stop screwing with our way of life, telling the World Economic Forum, stop trying to destroy farms, stop trying to destroy our Western way of life. And this weekend, President Biden's team is currently drawing up plans for a massive war in the Middle East to attack Yemen and attack Iran, according to Politico. Could we be any more thinly spread at the moment? Why would they be doing this? All to protect the US dollar, of course, the reserve currency of the world. That is the answer. Something that is quickly fading on the world stage. And we now know that Putin and China are making their moves into the region as they recognize a very weak President Biden. Biden, who has utterly failed to stop Houthi rebels from attacking ships in the Red Sea. These losers in Washington and London have utterly failed. They can't stop Houthi rebels, pirates, are you kidding me? But they keep making threats. They keep telling them, you know what, we're going to take action against these pirates.
The UK Foreign Secretary, Lord Cameron, has in the last few minutes said that the Red Sea attacks need to stop, or action will be taken. He has not specified what that action will be.
Sure, we're going to take action. These are the same idiots that told us Ukraine was winning the war. What we are seeing right now, of course, is a total breakdown of America's ability to provide security in the open oceans. We are watching a diminished U.S. Navy, and every country in the world is asking itself right now the very same question. How can we assure ourselves that we don't end up like what happened with Europe because of Russia and Ukraine? Look at the collapse of Germany right now. Seeing it all over the place. Businesses closing their doors. And I'm speaking to Germans who are saying they don't know what's going to happen with this energy crisis. These businesses cannot afford to operate. Guess what? Tens of thousands of farmers descending on Berlin. The U.S. umbrella right now, the United States umbrella of protection, isn't working anymore. So these countries are looking inward and elsewhere. And that's where China and Russia are stepping in, joining the BRICS nations. In fact, a new report out this week shows that the emergence of the BRICS currency in the BRICS nations in 2023 could be the singular most important economic event of the last 100 years. It's sunnier over on the BRICS side right now. The United States currency, of course, is backed by debt. It's backed by nothing. The BRICS currency, backed by precious metals, backed by commodities, backed by uranium, backed by gold, silver, oil, gas. These countries are asking right now, how can we protect our own shipping of minerals and materials in the Red Sea? The United States isn't protecting us. They failed us. This week we saw Maersk, the largest shipping company, extend its ban on shipping in the Red Sea because the U.S. can't protect them.
And the news that 1 in 5 commercial ships are now avoiding the Red Sea because of the threat of attack.
Container shipping giant Maersk announced on Friday that it is diverting all vessels from Red Sea routes around Africa's Cape of Good Hope for the foreseeable future.
Remember, the Bretton Woods Agreement is that you use our US dollars and we will stop pirates and we will protect the open oceans. That was the agreement. That has collapsed. So now the West starts shooting itself in the foot by engaging in a fool's war in the Middle East, hoping to save face, starting a war that we cannot win.
This is a problem bigger than America. We don't have the military capacity to prevail in this conflict. Yes, we can drop bombs in a lot of places. We will lose everything. Everything in the Middle East. Everything in the region. Because there's not a military facility in that region that is missile-proof. And Iran has a lot of missiles, and they will bring death and destruction down on the Americans like they haven't seen since the Second World War. And then what? Now we're in a regional conflict. Can we throw cruise missiles at Tehran? Yeah, but to what end? Because Tehran will destroy everything we have in the region. And then where are we? We don't have the ability to invade Iran. We can't do it. You could mobilize the entire American military capability today. We can't invade Iran. We don't have the ability. So to what end are we getting into this war? At the end of the day, the costs that will accrue by the United States taking on the entire region on behalf of Israel will far outweigh the consequences of just telling Israel no. But we can't tell Israel no because Israel owns us.
But that's not stopping the warmongers and neocons like Senator Lindsey Graham, who just went to Tel Aviv and acknowledged that we haven't been able to stop these Houthi rebel attacks. So we need to attack Iran. We need to blow it off the map.
I've been saying for 6 months now, hit Iran. They have oil fields out in the open. They have the Revolutionary Guard headquarters you can see from space. Blow it off the map.
He also said to Netanyahu, his favorite benefactor, that the United States is about to make Iran's worst nightmare a reality.
We're going to do everything we can on my end, and I think working with the Biden administration as Prime Minister to push forward to make Iran's worst nightmare real.
Good luck with that. Did you sign up? Did you personally sign up to have America involved in a war over Iran and Israel? I sure as shit didn't. And guess what? Any idiot with half a brain, or anyone with a 5th grade education, knows that anytime America bombs a Middle East country, it only hurts the United States. Period. End of discussion. It's not in our strategic interest to do any of this. It only hurts America, which is exactly what Biden wants, by the way. All you need to do is look at our southern border to know that America is collapsing, and Biden doesn't seem to care at all.
Thousands of migrants intent on reaching the United States spent Christmas walking toward the U.S.-Mexico border.
The Pentagon this week admitted it's also out of money for Ukraine. Sorry, we have no more. Which is just a fancy way of saying Zelensky is old news. 600,000 Ukrainians are now dead, which is exactly what NATO wanted, to wipe away an entire generation of young Ukrainians. And the few Ukrainians that aren't dead are now buying $300 old man masks just to avoid the Ukrainian body snatchers. You know, the guys that come around and grab these guys off the street and throw them into the meat grinder in the front lines against Russia. So Ukraine is done. NATO destroyed that country. Now the war is coming to Iran and Yemen. And now the US this week threatening war in Yemen, wagging their finger, telling them, you better stop these attacks on the ships in the Red Sea. The Houthi rebels basically just gave the US a big middle finger, saying, sorry, we're not scared. If you keep supporting Israel by sending billions of dollars in aid and weapons to Israel, we will continue these attacks on these ships. The ball is in your court, Mr. Biden, telling us they are ready, folks. They are ready for war. This war is coming. So that's the news update part.
As you might expect, saying the only reason we have not had a mass casualty incident is luck. Well, the government in Iran, although not officially, but through various leaks, has obviously blamed Israel. I think it is unlikely to be Israel because I don't see that Israel derives any benefit from the kind of attack we've seen, which is just a mass terrorist attack. It's one thing for Israel to take out a leader of Hamas, which they did in Beirut a couple of days ago. But this sounds to me more like something that could come from opposition groups within Iran itself. It's a very unstable situation in Iran. The regime is in a weaker position than it's been really since 1979. And it's interesting, at least as of the time we speak, that the government has not pinned the blame on anybody officially, and no group has tried to claim responsibility.
Let's talk about and pick up on the killing of Hamas's deputy leader yesterday. The leader of Hezbollah has given a very long address this evening, condemned the dangerous killing of that Hamas leader, and warned Israel that there will be no ceiling and no rules if it wages war on Lebanon. Many people then I think are going to be asking, John, whether Israel and Hezbollah, of course, who are funded by Iran, are heading for war. What do you think?
Well, I think they are already at war. Hezbollah has been attacking northern Israel since a matter of days, since the Hamas attack on October the 7th. And I think what's important to understand here is that in this region, we're looking at one big chessboard. This is not a separate series of conflicts that are unfolding. It's one strategy that the mullahs in Tehran have derived. I don't think we know fully what it is or what their near-term objectives are, but when you look at what the Houthis are doing, trying to close maritime traffic through the Suez Canal and the Red Sea, the Hamas attack out of Gaza into Israel, an act of pure barbarity, the Hezbollah rocketing of targets in Israel that I mentioned, and also the attacks by Shia militia groups on American military and civilian personnel in Syria and Iraq. This is not a coincidence or a series of coincidences. This is Qasem Soleimani's Ring of Fire strategy at work, and so that was one of the ironies why this attack in Kerman in Iran took place on the 4th anniversary of Soleimani's death.
Just looking further at what the Hezbollah leader Nasrallah has said, he's threatened to fight with no rules if Israel starts a war on Lebanon. What does that look like, John, in your experience? What is he warning of there?
Well, Hezbollah doesn't fight with rules anyway. That's emblematic of terrorist groups. You know, in the West, we've tried for centuries to mitigate the impact of warfare by just separating civilians out of it through a variety of rules about what's permissible and what's not permissible. Really, the underlying premise of terrorism, not just in the Middle East, but around the world, is to put civilians precisely in the middle of the conflict. And I think that's what Hezbollah would do if it unleashed its own terror attacks into Israel, or simply began to use some of the tens of thousands of missiles that are believed to be held by Hezbollah in their arsenals inside Lebanon. So that's why I think when people talk about the war expanding, the war already exists on all of the fronts that I just mentioned. The level of intensity may go up, but the conflict has already begun. And
what is the Hezbollah say that the US are the ones preventing the end of the war in Gaza? You've talked, you've written very, very recently that attacking Iran could be the only way to deter them from being further involved in the Israel-Hamas war. And we've seen, as you said, the big chessboard, the big extensions, and all the ramifications of the war that we've been discussing so far. What is the West's role in this now, do you believe, or what should it be?
We're in a circumstance right now where you can call it the West as a whole, you can call it the US and the UK, call it whatever you want. Let's just call it the United States, where the Houthis of Yemen are not deterred by the United States. Now just think about that. Hamas isn't deterred, Hezbollah isn't deterred, Shia rebel groups and Shia militia in Iraq and Syria are not deterred, and the mullahs in Tehran are not deterred. That is not good for international peace and security. You know, there are two ways you can turn this around. You can do what I think the White House is doing, which is basically begging these terrorist surrogates, these proxies of Iran, begging the mullahs in Tehran not to escalate themselves, or you can create conditions of deterrence where Iran and its proxies know that any pain they may inflict on the U.S. or its allies will be met with more than sufficient pain on their part to make them reconsider. That's what deterrence